evening. The April 24th, 2018 meeting of the Marion County School Board is called to order. For the courtesy of those listening to the meeting, I am requesting everyone in the audience, please turn off your electronic devices or put them on vibrate. Later in the meeting, up to 30 minutes will be provided for individuals to address the board on matters concerning the operation of the Marion County school system or the school board only. Presentations to the board are limited to 5 minutes and are televised. If you wish to address the board regarding a regular agenda item or matters on which the board customarily takes action, you must first complete a peach form located on the table in the hallway. And if you wish to address the board regarding a public hearing or student discipline matter, please complete the lime green form. These forms must be fully completed and received by the board's secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. The procedures applicable for each are on a separate sheet. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Kelly King, District 5.
Here.
Mrs. Nancy Stacy, District 1.
Here.
Mr. Bobby James, District 3.
Here.
Ms. Angie Boynton, District 4.
Here.
Mrs. Beth McCall, District 2.
Here.
Dr. Heidi Mayer, Superintendent.
Here.
Mr. Paul Gibbs, School Board Attorney.
Here.
Dr. Mayer, you would like to provide introductory remarks regarding our inspiration and pledge this evening.
Yes, we have some special people walking in, and the events of Friday do not need a recap right now, but I would like to introduce, he's hidden his cape this evening, I see, Mr. Brent Carson, principal of Forest High School.
Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Mayer, thank you for inviting us. As you're well aware, Friday was a very difficult day for Forest High School, and you wouldn't typically think of inspiration when you think of the events that happened on Friday. But when you look at the job that my teachers did and my students did on that day, I don't know how you could not see inspiration. I don't know how you couldn't be inspired by the job that each and every one of them did. They were amazing. The support from the community was amazing. There were 10 different law enforcement agencies with well over 100 people from law enforcement out at Forest High School to ensure that our campus was safe. We, through the reunification process, took 2,130 students and got them all home safely with their parents. So it was an amazing process, and I have some very important people here with me that I'm going to let speak. They are Ms. Panasuk and Ms. Haddon and Spencer Ashley, and they want to tell a little bit about their experience on Friday. So, Ms. Panasuk?
Hi. Yes, it was a very scary, traumatic time, and the kids were my inspiration. Keeping them safe was the most important thing, and somewhere, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, I was protected. And there was my angel on my shoulder, my daddy, and he got me through that, and I remained calm. I mean, completely calm, and I don't even know how I did it, other than to say I was protected and knew that it was going to be okay. And those kids, my kids, were so brave, and because bringing him in the room, I knew would be a traumatic thing, but it was that decision that had to be made. It was either get him away from the gun or, expose him to the children, and I opted that would be the best way to save them, was to make sure that he did not change his mind and go back after that gun and, try to continue on or whatever. But and to squash rumors, the kids would come up to me and hug me and say, "I heard you ran after him and tackled him." And I'm like, really? Do you think that I could? I don't run, first of all. And number two, if I were to run after him, I would trip and fall on him, and that would be the only way I would be tackling him. So let's squash that right now. No, I used words, or better yet, my ears, and let the young man speak, because that's what he needed. So, I can't say enough about the kids at Forest High School. They have come up to me yesterday, today. I've had more hugs, flowers, plants, cards, balloons than I can ever, imagine in my life. And it's those kids. It's those kids all the way. And they were my heroes. They really were. Thanks.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to say that my inspiration has been the community and the county for their outreach to us. Being in the classroom when it happened and not knowing exactly what had happened at the time, and then the reality set in when we realized what did happen, it shook me deep down inside. And to have the support of teachers, administrators, board members, people who I don't even know messaging me on Facebook saying, "Are you okay? We know who you are because my son's friend has you in class," or something like that. To hear that and to get all the support from social service workers and all that has really been an inspiration to me to be strong for the kids, seeing them come back to school, not just Monday, but especially today when I saw the kids who were in my class that morning. And the amount of love that they have given me, the amount of support, the amount of "are you okays" that I have gotten from them has just really not only solidified my career choice, but working here and working with these group of people and teaching these students. So it's been a great inspiration. So thank you.
Good evening. I'm Spencer Ashley. As far as inspiration goes, it's the students, it's the teachers that we work with. But I do want to say that you never think it's going to happen to you, and when we watched the Alice training a few weeks ago, even watching that, you're thinking it's never going to happen to you. And I'm so glad that we did watch that. And I think our teachers and our administrators just acted so fast on it. And even just watching a 30-minute video on that really impacted the direction of what was going to happen that day. So I want to say thank you to Dr. Mayer for implementing the ALICE program. I think that was incredible. And I really do, at the end of the day, think that it's the right decision. And when you're sitting in that classroom and you're telling the kids, whether it's, hey, we're going to open these windows and we're going out the windows or whatever we're doing, it's to make sure that everybody, comes out safe. And at the end of the day, that's all of our inspiration, is to keep the kids safe. So, thank you. Let's go ahead and stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all.
I recommend approval of the agenda for the April 24th, 2018 school board meeting with the materials in the board packet, those materials distributed to board members at the meeting, and the audio recording included as part of the official record of the meeting.
May I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation? Moved by Ms. King, seconded by Mr. James. All those in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. Ms. Judy Zanetti, Public Education Foundation Officer. Oh, I'm sorry. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for the February 27th, 2018 school board meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James, seconded by Ms. King. All those in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. Ms. Judy Zanetti, Public Education Foundation Officer, would like to recognize St. Leo University as the business partner for Forest High School.
Thank you, Chairman McCall, and it's good to be here this evening, Superintendent, Mayor, and school board members. As always, I like to bring to you great things that our community is doing for and with our schools. And this evening, I have with me Brent Carson, principal of Forest High School. You just saw him. Come on up, Mr. Carson. And Dr. Tammy Quick from St. Leo University. Rena Thomas is also on her way, and she may be having a little trouble finding a place to park tonight because you've attracted quite a crowd. Well, so St. Leo University has been involved with the school district and the Public Education Foundation for some time, so they are no stranger to doing good works in our schools. Tammy actually volunteers at the foundation regularly in Tools for Teaching and helps check teachers in and helps them shop, and they support us in many ways. And so we're excited now to publicly acknowledge the new business partnership between St. Leo University and Forest High School. And so I have some certificates I'll give you each, but before that, why don't you each take a moment and say something? We'll start with you, Mr. Carson.
We're really excited to have St. Leo as a partner. I mean, we can kind of have a direct pipeline from high school graduation straight into college, and I think that's fantastic. St. Leo does a lot of great things in the community. I know they've partnered with a number of other schools, so we're just very excited to be part of that team, and we're looking forward to a long and fruitful relationship.
I just want to say we are looking forward to working with Forest High School because we're wanting those college students to have those high school students to have that college experience before they even get to that point. So really we're getting excited to have them become educators in the future and getting prepared for the workforce as well too. So looking forward to working with Mr. Carson and the Forest High School staff.
So we've got a certificate for each of you that you can take back and put in your respective schools. And if you'll turn those around, Mr. Christian will grab a quick picture of you.
Zanetti, please step back in.
Oh yes, we need, you have to be in it.
Nice try.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Joanne Crowder, Fine Arts Program Specialist, would like to, Ms. Tia Brown would like to recognize the following Big Springs Regional STEM Fair winners. Big Springs Regional STEM Fair.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members, and Dr. Mayor. The Big Springs Regional STEM Fair began in Marion County in 1955. Through statewide organization, Marion County was merged with Sumter County and includes students in grades 6 through 12 from public, private, charter, and homeschools. The STEM Fair challenges students to turn their curiosities into realities. There are 13 categories offered in a variety of scientific areas where students compete for the opportunity to attend the prestigious State Science and Engineering Fair for 4 days in Lakeland, Florida, and the International Science and Engineering Fair for a week in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The STEM Fair occurred on February 1st at Circle Square Cultural Center with 135 Marion County Public School projects from 21 secondary schools on display. After judging by community members on February 1st, students eagerly attended an awards ceremony on the evening of February 2nd to reveal results. The top 32 projects overall, which is a shared quota with Sumter County, attend the State Science and Engineering Fair, while the top 2 scoring projects for Marion County, including private and charter schools, are invited to attend the International Science and State Engineering Fair. Locally, the fair was an exciting way for our entire community to see the wonderful activities taking place in secondary science classrooms and participate in the judging of these projects. At this time, we would like to recognize the following Marion County Public Schools state and international fair participants. Ms. Christine Strickler, Math Program Specialist, is going to come join me to hand them their certificates as they come in. State Science Fair participants in the junior category are Brooke Gerhold from Osceola Middle School, Luke Myers from Osceola Middle School, Holly Greenup from Osceola Middle School. Holly won a special award from the Florida Museum of National History at State Fair. Tristan Pank from Osceola Middle School. Tristan won honorable mention in mathematics and computational sciences. Sophia Reed from Osceola Middle School. Sophia won recognition in physics and astronomy and was unable to be here with us tonight. Vivek Sandrapati from Howard Middle School. Vivek won second place in engineering at State. Sophia Ahumada from Howard Middle School. Sophia won a certificate and nomination packet for Broadcom Masters and second place in cellular molecular biology and biochemistry at State Fair. Sophia also recently competed in Lockheed Martin Science Challenge at the Orlando Science Center, where she won first place in her category and received a $400 cash prize. For State Science Fair in the senior category, we have Phoebe Fox from Bellevue High School, who was unable to be here tonight, Morgan Morris from Bellevue High School. Morgan won recognition and a special award of $300 from the Florida Society of Environmental Analysts. Angela Shar from Vanguard High School. Angela won fourth place in animal sciences but was unable to attend tonight. Our state and international science and engineering fair participant is Gianfranco Cortez Arroyo from Westport High School. Gianfranco won recognition in mathematics and computational sciences at State Fair. He also competed in the Lockheed Martin Science Challenge at the Orlando Science Center, where he won first place in his category and received a $400 cash prize. These are your Marion County Public School future scientists.
Now's the time for pictures, Mom and Dad.
Turn around so we can congratulate you. Ms. King, we'll start with you.
I just want to take a moment and just tell you guys congratulations. Science is very important, and you guys have just done a very good job in making your parents proud and the board proud, and just continue that great work.
Ms. Stacy?
I think of really smart people as having their own look. And y'all just look normal. You're handsome and you're pretty and you're dressed nice and you make a great presentation. And I guess because I wasn't all that smart like you, but you look just like all of us. You've just got all those brains in there that we can't see. And I'm so proud of you and so thankful for your parents for giving you such great genetics, okay? So thank them for your genetics, all right? Okay.
To all of you, I just want to say congratulations for a job well done. And I know when we see you here today, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at your next adventure, the next thing you all challenge and conquer. So on behalf of all of us that don't get to sit in front of you guys, and I'll say it again, congratulations, job well done.
Ms. Boynton?
I'm very proud of all of you. You know, sometimes when you think you're not doing good, bad, but y'all doing so good. I mean, as I look at STEM, and I went to another county just to look at it, and look at us doing much better, you know? I'm so proud of you.
Thank you all. Continue to move forward, continue to do great things, and hopefully one day maybe you'll come back to Marion County and work here and be a part of our community. We really hope you do that. Now I want you to turn around, and I want all the parents of these fine students to please stand. And boys and girls, let's give your folks a hand, because without them, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you all very much for coming tonight. Thank you. Let the room clear a little bit. Ms. Joanne Crowder, Fine Arts Program Specialist, would like to introduce Mr. Michael Jennings, Band Director at Lakeware High School. Mr. Jennings, along with some of his students, would like to share with the board their experience at the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New Orleans, Louisiana.
Good evening, Board Chair Ms. McCall, Vice Chair Ms. Boynton, board members, Superintendent Dr. Mayer, Ms. Flockheader and Mr. Gibbs, and guests. Lakeware High School's band director, Mr. Michael Jennings, is a product of our Marion County Public School System. He graduated from Lakeware High in 2005.
He then graduated cum laude from Florida State University in 2009 with a bachelor's degree in instrumental music education. He plays trumpet professionally at Wings of Faith Fellowship Church and also in the Southern Express Big Band in Ocala. The Lakeware High School Band Program has been very successful under Mr. Jennings' leadership, earning superior ratings in marching, concert, jazz, and winter guard ensembles at district and state music performance assessments. In the past, the Lakeware High School Band performed in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Savannah, Georgia, but this year they traveled to New Orleans, Louisiana to play in their St. Patrick's Day Parade. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Jennings, Lakeware High School's band director, to tell you more.
Thank you so much to the school board, Dr. Mayor, Ms. McCall. It was just such a privilege and an honor to represent not just Marion County and our school, but the entire state of Florida, and we just really wanted to say thank you for allowing that to happen. And we know that that opportunity was certainly a privilege, and that's something that's not, easily granted upon, especially whenever you're deciding on whether you want to send your students to a whole nother state, especially to New Orleans, Louisiana. But it was just an outstanding field trip. All of my students and parents and chaperones that came along with us, they had a great time. We were the only band that participated in the specific parade that we were doing, and it was just a great electric time. I mean, the people were just so welcoming, and all the different activities that we did were just really educational. There's really a lot of rich history, and the culture of New Orleans is outstanding, and it was just something that I will never forget, and I know my students will never forget as well. And this evening, to explain to us a little bit about it, I've brought 3 of my students along to give you just a little bit of a background and kind of their perspective on the field trip. I've brought along with me my drum major, Miss Victoria Blanchette, my low brass section leader and alternate drum major, Mr. Jeffrey Welch, and my band captain, Miss Anissa Rivers, and they're going to talk to you for just a minute.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Blanchette. I am honored to be the drum major at Lakeware High. I am a junior in the IB program with a 4.7 GPA. I am also ranked 5th in my class. When Mr. Jennings gave us the news that we would be speaking at this school board meeting, I was absolutely floored. Thoughts came rushing to my head about which of the experiences I could share with you about our trip to New Orleans. I had spent the entire year looking forward to this trip. As soon as I received the schedule, I looked up each of the activities that we would be doing. When March 15th finally came around, I couldn't wait to finally begin creating memories that I would never forget. Not only did this trip bring me closer to my friends, but being in a new place, of course, brings forth a new atmosphere with new places to visit and new people to meet. Every day was packed with activities, and each and every one was not only fun, but also educational. 4 museums that we visited were the Audubon Aquarium of the Americas, the Presbyterian, the Old U.S. Mint and Jazz Museum, and Mardi Gras World. We learned a lot about marine life at the aquarium, of course, and were able to look at numerous exhibits about Hurricane Katrina at the Presbyterian. This was extremely eye-opening, as Hurricane Katrina hit when I was 4 years old, and now that I am old enough to understand the devastation that was brought by the hurricane, it was interesting to gain knowledge about the disaster and its place in history. At the Old U.S. Mint, we learned about its years of operation in producing coins, but also got to explore its jazz exhibits. As a vocalist with our jazz band and a clarinetist, I was extremely interested in understanding the history of jazz, especially in its birthplace. We also visited Mardi Gras World, where we learned about the history of Mardi Gras and the craftsmanship that goes into creating floats and props. We were able to see the artists at work, and I could really appreciate the talent and expertise that goes into their craft. We visited the French market during the day, which of course is located in the absolutely gorgeous French Quarter. We further explored the area on a ghost tour where we learned about the supernatural side of New Orleans. The supernatural element was further built upon when we visited the St. Louis Cemetery in the next day. At the New Orleans School of Cooking, we learned about the cooking style in New Orleans and even received recipes to take home and create. Aside from the parade, my favorite activity was riding the steamboat Natchez. We cruised the Mississippi River while listening to jazz and eating great food. I loved the atmosphere on the steamboat, as the 3 musicians were phenomenal and the view of the river was beautiful. Finally, the parade was an experience like no other. I am extremely honored to be able to lead a group of talented and disciplined students. I was so proud of our group as we played our best for the entirety of the parade and were able to engage the people around us at the parade stops. I am so grateful that I was granted the opportunity to have this educational and exciting experience. And looking back at videos, I am reminded of the memories that I made in those 4 days, and I am sure that I will always treasure them. I would like to thank you all for making it possible.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Welch, and I'm currently a junior at Lakeware High School. Currently, in my band, I hold 3 leadership positions: section leader, brass captain, and alternate drum major. I'm so happy to be here today to speak about the amazing trip to New Orleans Dr. Mayer and the school board allowed us to go on today, a while ago. While we were in New Orleans, I learned many amazing things, like they have their gravestones above ground because they're so below sea level, and that to this day, the city is literally sinking a couple inches a year into the ground. But one of the big personal lessons that me and the rest of the band learned were to have discipline and respect. When we went on the trip, we practiced our discipline because whenever we all went there, we all knew that we were going to a very popular city in a different state. And us being a school from Florida, we didn't want to tarnish the name of Florida or Lake Weir itself. And in practicing respect, while we were on the trip, we walked through the streets a lot and went to lots of museums and had to stay together. It was just a very hectic thing, but we all managed to stay together. And every time we talked to our teachers, our volunteers, and the people in the street, we all had to treat them with respect, because New Orleans is a very different place from Florida. They have different food. They practice religion a bit differently there, but it's pretty cool though. And this trip was just incredibly fun, and I'm so happy and appreciative we were able to go on it. Hopefully in the future, we're able to go on more trips like this in the future. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Anissa Rivers, and I'm currently a junior at Lakeware High School. And this past year, I've had the absolute pleasure as being my band's student representative under the position band captain. Along with band, I'm involved in multiple honor courses and IB courses as well, and I currently hold a 3.8 GPA. Luckily, during my junior year, it was you people who stand before me now that granted the band permission to drive out to state to perform at the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New Orleans, Louisiana. And to you, I'm sending my sincerest thanks, not only for the band was this experience an opportunity of a lifetime, but it was eye-opening and culturally enriching beyond what words can absolutely comprehend. Personally, this is my experience with New Orleans, and most importantly, what I'm going to carry with it as both a student and future performer. As a high school student, at times, there tend to be very little to what we're exposed to. As developing minds, I find it integral that a child is exposed to every possibility the world has to offer. Education lies beyond what's in a textbook. And so I'm just going to take a very brief moment to just speak about a developing human mind and what we all can learn from experiencing and becoming a part of a community and stepping into a world unlike our own. So too often, high school can nearly be confinement and bubble. Yes, of course, to pave a path for success for our students, that's very reasonable or realistic. But what I'm trying to say is that there's other paths that lies for a student to come across, and there's many different possibilities and moments to be creative. So my experience, of course, I came from Lake County, and I came here, and I met with the lovely Mr. Jennings here, and he opened his arms to me to music. And I haven't really experienced that before, but when I did, this is when I started to grow a passion to become a music educator, much like him, amongst other things. As well as New Orleans, I've grown such a huge love for jazz. I had the opportunity to sing for our jazz band this year, along with Victoria as well. And it's been eye-opening and culturally enriching and of true amazing experiences. So basically what I'm saying, it ties into exposure, us going to New Orleans this year, of new ideas and creativity that drove me to my success today as the band captain and lead in my play and so on and so forth. I'm also involved in the choir, but all these things came from exposure. So to me, what makes a human being starts with an experience in culture and a community that's foreign to us. This is where thinking starts and where ideas begin to emerge. So upon first entering New Orleans, my first impression was, very crowded, very loud, but most importantly, it was exciting. And Ocala is an amazing place, and I couldn't wish better for my parents to have moved down here. I love it. However, just to be cultivated in something entirely different really opened my eyes to other possibilities as well. There were, for example, I saw a man, he was rapping about his surroundings. It was very different. He had a microphone and an amplifier, and that's all he had, but there was a crowd, and people were entranced, and they loved it. There is also a man no younger than 60 playing the alto saxophone on the street side. And there is human statues, speed painters, violinists, big bands on every single corner filling the streets with jazz. And as you probably are aware, New Orleans is best known for its cuisine, Mardi Gras, and of course known as the birthplace of jazz. So for example, many musicians come from New Orleans, and we've also learned that, as Victoria had said before, in the U.S. Mint and Jazz Museum, where we also learned some cultivating and very inspiring artists that grew up in New Orleans. So basically what I wanted to really speak to you, I really want to thank you for opening the eyes for many of our students here. We had an amazing time, and it was in experiences, and there was lessons that we will take this for the rest of our lives. And though it may just seem like a little trip, I think there's a lot of it that we can take from culture to cuisine to music, everything that you can possibly imagine that we will be carrying with us for the rest of our time. New Orleans is phenomenal, and the culture, as I said, was enriching. Not only was this fun, but you're expanding our minds creatively and, of course, academically. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Mr. Jennings, you have some outstanding students there. We are in very good hands when I listen to these young people. Miss Stacy, would you?
You know, I am so excited about Lake Weir and their band. This has been a popular band in this community for so many years. And you've taken me back to the days when I was in the band in Palm Beach County. And the band trips we took. I twirled and played the clarinet. And we took band trips. And the things that you're saying is bringing me back. You're right. You're going to remember these trips because things were flashing through my mind of the things that I did when we went off and everything. And you know, it was just amazing the flashbacks I was having while you were talking. And it was 45 years ago, okay, when I graduated high school. So, you know, it's so exciting, though, just to hear you talk about it. And I remember when my son was at Forest High School playing football, and he was, this goes back probably to 1999, and he was football captain at the time, and I was watching the band. I was so intrigued by the Lake Weir High School band. When the football game was over, I told my husband, I said, I'm headed across the field to congratulate the band director. It's fabulous. So I went across the field, and I got the band parents and everything, and I said, I am so proud of y'all, and you know, all that you've done. Your band is fantastic. And one of the moms said, a football player's mom never really, from the other team, never really appreciates our band like this. I said, you have no idea. I have a music history, and your band, I had to come across the field to congratulate your band director because you were that band was so phenomenal, and I want to thank you for continuing that. There's times when I've gone to Lake Weir High School at halftime to see the band, all the way from Ocala, and I'm a Forest High mom from the old days. So thank you so much. And please keep that band rocking and rolling. Thank you.
You want to say thank you?
Yeah.
Mr. James?
Mr. Jennings, I think we go back a long ways. And I just want to say this on behalf of your predecessor. I know he's very proud of what you've done with the band and continued the tradition at Lake Weir. Your first year, I think we talked about what you needed to do, what your plans were, and you have achieved those. And I just want to say congratulations again. And I just want to thank you on behalf of your predecessor and all those kids that was in the band when you were there. A job well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I was in the band and remember going to Washington, D.C. to represent the state of New Mexico at an inauguration, and all of those memories you brought back to me, too. So thank you. Please keep up the good work. Keep that band rocking. Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt a proclamation acknowledging that the National Day of Prayer is observed the first Thursday of May, which is May 3rd, 2018. So moved by Ms. Boynton, seconded by Ms. King. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please vote aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. Mr. Kevin Christian, Public Relations Officer and TV Media Productions Coordinator, and Mr. Ed Wilson, please come forward for the reading and presentation of the proclamation.
This proclamation reads, whereas the Congress of the United States passed a law proclaiming the first Thursday of each May as the National Day of Prayer, whereas May 3rd, 2018 is the day set aside for Americans of all denominations to unite to pray for our people, our leaders, and our nation. Whereas the 67th consecutive observance of the National Day of Prayer recognizes the freedom to gather, worship, and pray. And whereas this year we are united in our prayers for the safe return of our extended family members serving in our military overseas, now therefore be it proclaimed, the Marion County School Board acknowledges May 3rd, 2018 as the National Day of Prayer and joins all citizens of Marion County, the state, and the nation in observing this important occasion. And each of you has signed and dated this as of today. Mr. Wilson?
Thank you very much.
Present this to you on behalf of the board.
Mr. Christian, thank you very much. Board, thank you. Superintendent, thank you. In God we trust. Thank you all very much.
May I have a motion to adopt a proclamation recognizing May 8th, 2018 as National Teacher Appreciation Day? Moved by Ms. King. Seconded by Ms. Boynton. If there's no discussion, all those in favor, please vote aye, and opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. Mr. Kevin Christian and Mr. Ryan Bennett, Principal of Madison Street Elementary, along with Ms. Helen Hoteling, Teacher of the Year, please come forward for the reading and presentation of the proclamation.
My honor to read this tonight. It says, whereas teachers make public schools great, whereas teachers work to open students' minds to ideas, knowledge, and dreams, whereas teachers keep American democracy alive by laying the foundation for good citizenship, whereas teachers fill many roles as listeners, explorers, role models, motivators, and mentors, and whereas teachers continue to influence us long after our school days are only memories. Now therefore we, the members of the Marion County School Board and Superintendent, serving as the policy and decision makers for Marion County students, do hereby proclaim May 8th, 2018 as National Teacher Appreciation Day, and we urge others to observe this day, taking time to recognize and acknowledge the impact of teachers on our lives. And we have a great example right here. Ms. Hoteling, how long have you taught in Marion County?
In Marion County, 28 years.
28 years. By multiply that by at least 20 or 30 students a year by one teacher.
As Marion County's Teacher of the Year, I'm honored to represent all the teachers of Marion County. I am especially wanting to honor the teachers of Forest High School who kept our children safe last Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hoteling.
Mr.
Ms.
Taylor,
Hoteling, Mr. James has a comment for you.
the last time you were here, I didn't say anything to you, and you did a beautiful job of expression, and I felt guilty about it. And that today I got a chance to make amends. I want you to always speak your mind. Talk to us about what we're doing, and hold us accountable for what we do. I really appreciate you coming back and standing before us and letting us know what's happening on the front line. And I just want you to let you know I felt guilty because I didn't say thank you for coming back. Thank you.
And can I say ditto? Ditto.
Thank you.
I also want to say thank you, but personally, I want to say you do inspire children because my daughter, you had my daughter, Allison, as a kindergartner, In about a week and a half, she's graduating from college. And she's done just fine. And thank you for being the best foundation and example that she could ever begin with in the classroom.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but thank you. You're
Thank you.
absolutely wonderful.
Jennifer Beck, Principal on Assignment, please come forward to provide an update on our teacher vacancies and teacher recruitment data.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Board Members, Superintendent Mayor, Ms. Flockheader, Ms. Martinez-Lopez, and Mr. Gibbs. This evening, I am presenting with Kendra Hamby, who is the Director of Turnaround Schools and Early Learning, along with Ms. Kira Shafty, who is the Coordinator of Teaching and Learning. We are here to share data connected to teacher vacancies and teacher recruitment. Our objectives during this presentation are to share current vacancy data connected to our turnaround schools, to provide updates on district and statewide teacher vacancies, and to share ongoing district recruiting and retention efforts at all schools, especially our turnaround schools. At this time, I'd like to turn our presentation over to Mrs. Hamby.
I encourage you to reference your data binder that was given at the end of third quarter to reference as we go through each school. But in case you don't have it, we also have the data up here on the PowerPoint slide for you. And I'm going to go through the turnaround schools in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Evergreen Elementary. And like Ms. Beck had mentioned, the update this evening is about the teacher vacancies. So if you do have your data binder, this clip right here that we have up on the PowerPoint slide is on the bottom of that first page of that quick fact sheet. So in case you want to look at it in your binder. At the end of third quarter, Evergreen had 6 vacancies, and presently they still have 6 vacancies. However, there's a few changes in placements in those vacancies. For instance, in first grade, the vacancy has been filled, but in 5th grade, there is an opening this 4th quarter. These substitute teachers have been supported by the content area specialists with lesson plans and resources to help them better understand the depth of the standards. For an example, students in 5th grade who take the ELA, Math, and Science Florida State Assessment, they have been getting quite a bit of support with the content area specialists, and they've been working on maximizing that instructional time by integrating the content. For example, they're using science text to teach the 5th grade ELA standards. And also the schedules have been adjusted so that way the teachers can help team teach and teach those core subject areas to support that substitute that's there this 4th quarter. And moving on to Greenway Elementary had 10 vacancies at the end of 3rd quarter, and that number still remains the same today. And again, this school also has a few changes or adjustments. For example, there's 1 vacancy now in 2nd grade, and in 1st grade, there are 2 vacancies. I know Ms. North, feels that these substitute teachers are quality, and many of them have passed they're struggling to pass maybe 1 subtest to receive their teacher certification, but have passed portions of those tests. So they're working on that as we speak, and then also since week 1, they have been included and treated as fellow professionals and teachers on that campus. They were involved in school-wide professional development, grade level planning, and they also are supported by their academic coach and their coordinator. Oakcrest Elementary continues to have the same number of vacancies, which is 4.6 at the end of 3rd quarter. Ms. Leinenbach notated in the text box there in the quick fact sheet about how she did some creative movement of teachers to help ensure that those students would be getting instruction from certified teachers. So for example, that 0.6, you might wonder 4.6, where's the
.6, but that is our gifted unit that is shared with Wyomina. So it's .6, and those students actually are going to College Park and receiving their gifted services, their weekly services at College Park. And the students from one second grade classroom were dispersed into other classrooms, so that way, again, they're getting the instruction from certified teachers. The substitute teachers at Oakcrest Elementary, along with the other schools that I had mentioned, are getting ongoing support from the content area specialists with quality lessons and also resources to help them with their instruction. And they also are provided with those professional development opportunities. And Wyomina Park Elementary has 4.4 vacancies, and their vacancies are the same since the end of fourth quarter. And I must say, and I know Ms. Baxley probably shared that when she met with you all, that this is quite an improvement, because at the beginning of the school year, there were 11 vacancies at Wyomina Park. So they have reduced drastically, and Ms. Baxley also has detailed notes in her quick fact sheet notating how those students are getting support. That .4 teaching unit is the gifted unit, like I mentioned, that is shared with Oakcrest, and those students are getting instruction from a certified gifted teacher. As you can see on that quick fact sheet, that a majority of the vacancies are in first grade. So they have received strong support in first grade by the content area specialists with ongoing coaching, resources to help ensure that we have effective instruction. In addition, with those on-site coaches that are there at that school, we have district support that is going out on a daily basis and teaching the ELA instructional block. And that is to provide sound instruction. Obviously, they need that in every grade level, but in first grade where they're learning how to read, it's really emphasizing with reading, writing, and phonics with those students. So not only the school-based support there, but district support is going out on a daily basis. In addition, Ms. Baxley has adjusted the master schedule and also the intervention schedule, and to ensure that certified instructional staff are teaching the most at-risk students. So there are scripted intervention programs, and those are given to the substitute teachers because they're very straightforward and scripted, that way they have those resources to make sure that they're implementing that instruction with fidelity. My last slide here with the turnaround schools is I wanted you to be able to visualize the vacancies that I've already referenced, and this was at the end of third quarter, in relation to what the vacancies were at the end of third quarter district-wide at the elementary level. So as you can see on this bar graph, we recognize that if you look at those numbers, that's a little over 40% of our vacancies are sitting in our turnaround schools. And I want to just say, these turnaround principals, it's not at the fault of them because they have been working hard to fill these vacancies along with the support of the district. Several of them have attended recruitment fairs across the state. They've held multiple interviews in person and by phone. Some of them have even given their personal cell phone numbers so that way candidates can contact them after hours if interested in having an interview. So they have had many different interviews. They've actually offered several positions, and a common theme between all of these schools in the issues that they have expressed is, one of them is that they've offered, for example, like at Wyomina, four different positions, and they've declined because they're not ready to make that commitment. Some of them are thinking, oh, I thought that I was applying for next year. They're not ready to begin teaching right now or ready to make that move or begin teaching mid-year. And also, many of them also have certification issues where that our subs that are in place have just as much certification or part of the certification needed, just like the applicants that are applying. So we're seeing that is a common thread with the certification issues. So we realize that we need to continue refining our practice to lower the number of our teacher vacancies. So the next person that's going to be presenting this evening is Kira Shafty, and she's going to share the additional support that's been provided to the turnaround schools with these high vacancies that they've had, and also the recruitment efforts that are taking place presently and in the future. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Shafty. Thank you.
Thank you. Schools across the nation are grappling with a shortage of teachers, resulting in a reassessment of the way we recruit and hire educators. Nationwide, teacher education enrollments dropped 35% between 2009 and 2014, The local implication is evident in UCF closing their education degree this May. With this in mind, the Teaching and Learning Department is leveraging research identifying induction and support for new teachers as one of the key factors that influence whether a teacher decides to enter, remain, or stay in the profession. So I'd like to take you through some of the ways that we've transitioned from 2016-2017 into 2017-2018. During the 2016-2017 school year, the district supported 97 new hires. The criteria during that school year was only temporary certificates, which those are our non-education majors. It was first-year support through a peer teacher and some tutoring for the Florida Teacher Certification Exam in reading and mathematics. This year, we are supporting 293 of our new hires. Temporary and professional certificates, we know those College of Ed grads need support just as well, and we've grouped them in. First and second year support because they need that 2 years to begin solidifying their craft. We've implemented instructional talent developers, which boost what the peer teacher was. We give them coaching and tools to provide teachers with ways to reflect on their practice. And we've offered teacher certification exam prep courses in the general knowledge reading, math, essay, ESE, pre-K primary, and pro-ed. So we are trying to just extend the reach and support teachers as much as we possibly can. Some specific supports we've given the turnaround schools. Evergreen, we've assisted with the Skype virtual field trips, and it was a wonderful experience for the students to take a field trip to national and international places, all from the comfort of Evergreen. Greenway, we've done the Fundamental 5 book study, which helps solidify effective practices. Oakcrest, we've done learning walks focused on the learning environment as well as instruction, and we know that when teachers see practice in action, that's where we get the benefit from it. And then Wyomina Park, we've had monthly support meetings for our new hires as well as our instructional talent developers based on their needs. On your next slide, you'll see these are the recruiting events that we've attended this school year. We've been aggressive with our marketing and recruitment, attending 10 events across the state of Florida as well as the University of Georgia. Targeted outreach and presence has resulted in 10 conditional contracts and 6 hires. So we are proud of the work that we've done this school year with that. And holding our own recruitment event supports our desire to remain competitive and relevant. Our May 5th job fair provides our school administrators with an opportunity to brand or showcase their schools while meeting qualified applicants and for immediate hire. Understanding the needs of our turnaround schools, Evergreen, Greenway, Oakcrest, and Wyomina Park will have first access to potential candidates as they check in for the job fair. This dual placement in the auditorium as well as Building 2 of MTI will increase access to candidates. Our goal is to facilitate as many opportunities as possible to ensure our classrooms are fully staffed. As of yesterday, we have 118 potential candidates interested in attending the job fair, and we look forward to providing a great experience for them. And Ms. Beck will be back up to close the presentation.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shafty. This concludes our teacher vacancy and recruiting presentation. At this time, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. And at our next board meeting, we would like to discuss teacher VAM, or value added model, specifically as it relates to our turnaround schools. Do you have any questions?
Do you?
I do. I have a question about the vacancies at Wyomina, the three first grade teachers. Did they begin the year as first grade teachers and there hasn't been first grade teachers all year, or did they leave after the school year began? Can you give me
Let me see if
information on
Ms. Hamby can answer that question, specifically about first grade teachers. I will say definitely at Wyomina Park we have had some teacher changes. So again, I think we heard Mrs. Hamby say they started with 11. They have had some changes along the way. I can't answer specifically whether there's been a change in first grade. Mrs. Hamby, do you have that data?
No, they remained at third grade, and they just had that intense support on right. They've been at first grade, and they've remained there. So that way they've just been given that intensified support in that grade level.
But I mean, they're missing 3 first grade teachers. So what I'm asking is, at the beginning of the school year, were their first grade teachers placed and then they left after the school year began? Or was there never a filled position for the first grade? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, and
Okay.
I don't have the exact number. Some of them were not vacant at the beginning of the year when I was given the.
Okay, so you're saying they were in there. Okay, the reason why I'm asking, because if there's 3 first grade teachers that began the school year and they're not there now, that alarms me that something may be going on in first grade that they're leaving. And my next question is Evergreen, because I think it was mentioned that district staff level ELA went to Waimea to go out there every day. Has there been any support like that at Evergreen, where, can you give me specific examples where district level, the experts are going into that school? Since it's, we know it's.
Right, and I can speak to, like, their school improvement plan. One of their goals is about their school culture and their discipline. And so, like our last presentation, we had mentioned how there's district support that's going on a weekly basis, and having that lunch bunch group, because that is a focus. That's one of their action plans and their strategies, is to work on that aspect. So that's the district support that's being given on a weekly basis. Like Ms. Shafty had mentioned, they've done the Skype field trips, they've done other things, as far as supporting the new teachers. So there's a lot of different examples of district support. But the weekly one, that's one that I can think of right off the top of my, head, is about them going out and doing the lunch bunch, like we had mentioned.
Okay, because I'm just, because I noticed that Waimea, and I think that sounds like a great idea, but we know that Evergreen is in jeopardy of closing. So I'm just curious who has been out there and how often and what has been done to help these students.
So I'd like to speak specifically to, I'd like to draw attention to the content area specialists, if I can, for a minute at Evergreen. I was out there this week, the other day, as our state support was out there. Saw a wonderful example of how our content area specialists are supporting specific teachers at Evergreen, and I'll provide the example, and then teachers in all grade levels. So Mr. Trahan is their math CAS, and so while we were there the other day, he was directly supporting teachers and students in the classroom. I'd also like to point out that there is an opening at 5th grade at Evergreen that Mrs. Hamby referenced. All grade levels are important, but knowing that at 5th grade students are going to take ELA, writing, math, and science, we wanted to make sure that there was coverage in that classroom. So Mr. Livingston, working with his team, I'd like you to know that their science CAS goes into that 5th grade classroom every day and teaches. And then when she moves over to support another 5th grade classroom during science time, their ELA content area specialist comes in to teach the classroom. So really, for that open 5th grade classroom, that's a great example how there is complete wraparound coverage during the day for those students. Also know that myself, along with Ms. Hamby, we are out at those turnaround schools. So we had a great discussion the other day. We were in all of our 4th grade classrooms, several of our 5th grade classrooms, and then we spent time specifically talking about discipline at Evergreen. So we are having those ongoing conversations, with vacancies and recruitment being one of those discussions.
Okay, you still did not answer my question. My question is there anyone coming out there on a daily basis from the district level, not in the classroom, that is going and entering into these classrooms to work with these students? Like you are, that was mentioned at Waimea. It sounded like there was a district level staff, ELA, that are coming in. I'm curious if there's anyone at the district level, they're the experts, that are coming into Evergreen Elementary to work with these students. That was my question.
So I am not aware of a particular person that's going in on a daily basis, but again, I would go back and say that we have a full host of individuals that are supporting them on a regular basis. Everything from our teaching and learning department, our turnaround department, principal on assignment, to our elementary education department.
Thank you.
Anything else? I can tell you, I attended the community assessment team meeting last week, and you get an awful lot of information from the principals of the turnaround schools at those meetings. So I think that was the last one of the year, Ms. Hamby, but they'll have 3 again next year, and they really give you a lot of information on what's going on at the individual schools. So I encourage everybody.
I've attended them in the past. I was just curious because Evergreen is a struggling school, and I will discuss later, we received a letter from the chancellor yesterday, and I was just kind of curious to see if there's any extra support. I know there's been some community support, but I'm just curious if there's been anything, extra support, but maybe you can think about it and then bring that information later, if there is anything.
Again, I would just kind of reiterate in closing that through a variety of departments, we have definitely supported Evergreen throughout this year, and really we will continue to support Evergreen. So even though they have completed their ELA testing and they begin to take their math assessment this week, our support is not going to stop at that school. So I will still continue to be out there. Mrs. Hamby will continue to be out there. So whether that be from an instructional point of view, a curriculum point of view, we are there to support Mr. Livingston, the administrators, and their team.
Okay. One of the things, again, I'm right back where I was. Have there been any movement upward or downward since the last time you've been before us?
Connected to teacher vacancies, Mr. Jennings?
Connecting to every one of the areas that we were talking about in reference to these school visits, are ready or not. See, that's what I'm looking for. Where are we at when you were here last? Where are we now?
So a couple of things connected to that. iReady window actually opens up next week on April 30th. So there would have been no new additional iReady data yet.
That's what I want to know now. In terms of vacancies, have there been any improvements to the last time we talked?
So those numbers remain the same, although some of the grade levels have changed. The overall numbers remain the same from the end of third quarter to where we sit today.
Okay, so that remained the same?
Yes.
There have been no movement. Okay, these are the things that I'm looking for. Where were we at the last time you spoke to us? Where we are now? And as we go through this, as we look at the things that we really want to know about, I want to know if there's any movement in these things. That's what I'm looking for.
And I believe, Mr. James, that Dr. Grantham has a line graph that we have done as a prototype that we definitely wanted you to take a look at to see whether that will address some of the questions that you have had connected to going back to attendance, discipline, out-of-school suspensions, teacher absences. So all of that is represented on one chart. And if he hasn't had an opportunity to share that with you.
I haven't.
Okay.
Okay, one of the things I would like to say to the board, I would like to go out and see if I can get some help on designing this, because this is a good idea, and I appreciate it, Doctor. But I'm still not happy with what I'm seeing, but it's a good step in the right direction, because I will continue to say, I want to know if we move from A to B or B to C in terms of the student achievement and moving these schools. You know, I understand very well what Ms. King is saying. She's a technical person, and she know about inside those classrooms. I know if you got from first base to second base. And I want to know if you're getting ready to go for home. And see, when I hear all of this, and I was screening it, and the thing that's important to me is if we are making movement. And I think all of these board members would like to know if we are moving, if we still got the same number of absentees that we had last time. And then I will ask the question, what are we doing? And that's what I am. Board, I would like to get out and see if I can get something to more refine this information, so we can almost look at it in a nutshell and say, this, we're moving, we're doing this, we're doing that. Because I want us to be able to, and all this stuff that I hear is wonderful, but I want to know if we're going from first to second base. If we're not, why are we still on second base? Then that's the question should pop up then. That's what I'm looking for. And I'll try and help out a little bit on this one, because we're in the right direction, but I'll try and help out on this one.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you for the information. As I looked at it, I was thinking that, for all the turnaround of schools, I begin to understand the teachers' vacancies. So I said, you know, as we look to recommitment, I begin to understand who's doing this for our, because if you look around and you see all of the, for our state, as I looked at some of those colleges there, that we don't talk, we don't even give the information to them. I think we should be, as I looked at CFC, right here, CFCC, we put the information, but we're not really trying to recruit those people like we need to.
So I will.
Show me, because I'm looking at BCC, you know, right down in Daytona.
So I'll begin that discussion, and I'm going to invite Ms. Shafty to come forward.
Okay.
I know that they have actually done an outreach to many colleges.
Okay.
They have done specific recruiting events at the 10 that were identified, but they have sent out information to many, many colleges within the state of Florida, and as she shared with us the other day, up into Georgia. So Ms. Shafty, will you please add to that?
Thank you.
The 10 recruiting events, we've had very powerful turnout. So while the field of candidates are very slim, we're finding that the quality of candidates is dramatically increasing. So we have a constant presence at those events, and we're actually having candidates come and tour and ask to go to certain schools, and we're taking them to meet administrators, and that I don't believe that's ever been done before. They're coming and they're getting that experience. So we attend the recruitment events based on the time of year. It tends to slow down during certain portions, so they are typically very strong between the August, October, and then it's midterms, and then it picks back up just before graduation again in May. So we're also limited to the college schedules. But once we see the event, we reach out to district support to see if someone from our district went to school there and it's their alma mater. And we also reach out to our principals because we find that that's a very big selling point when someone who attended the university is there recruiting for Marion County. So the events have been very powerful, and when Mr. Norton goes to the recruiting events, he collects the resumes and posts them in a common location in SharePoint for all of our administrators to access. So we are trying to find as many ways as possible to bring these candidates and to provide them direct access to our administrators.
What about, will you share the email you got from the student who is graduating the day of the?
Yes. So unbeknownst to us, the recruitment fair is on CF's graduation, and she emailed and she said, I'm very excited to be graduating, but I'm going to attend this job fair in the elementary session, and I'm going to go to my graduation, hopefully with a job. So she was very excited. We're posting on Indeed and some other teachers on DOE, as many places as we can, just to get our name out there and brand who we are as Marion County. So we are reaching very far. We will continue to strive and hit more events next year, but I do believe we're in a great place with our recruitment this year.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. King?
As we know, recruitment is important. It's also very important that we maintain. Are we doing any type of survey or reaching out to our teachers to have a good pulse of what we need to be doing to make sure that we're maintaining our good teachers?
I'm in the process of creating a survey for our administrators because we want to know what site-based support our new teachers are getting. Our instructional talent developers will be answering a short survey, and our new teachers will be answering a survey, and we're going to make decisions based on those survey results next year.
Okay, so that doesn't include just current teachers, veteran teachers in that survey?
The instructional talent developers are our veteran teachers supporting our new teachers, but specifically in teaching and learning, I'm targeting based on our mission for our department to retain and recruit our new hires.
Okay. Great.
Anything else?
Thank you for that information. I'm going to give you some more information, so I want you to get from the HBCU so you can get them information too, okay? Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much. I will now ask the school board's attorney to explain the rules governing persons who wish to address the school board tonight.
Good evening. In compliance with Section 286.0114 of Florida statutes, the school board has adopted uniform procedures for public speakers who wish to speak at tonight's meeting, either regarding one of tonight's agenda items or a matter relating to the operations of the school district. These procedures will ensure the public has a reasonable opportunity to be heard on school board and school district matters. A written summary of these procedures is available from the table in the hallway. Public speaker forms are also located on the same table. The completed forms were due to the school board secretary no later than 5:40 p.m. Tonight's speakers will be called prior to the business portion of the school board's meeting in the order of receipt by the school board secretary. Before you begin speaking, please state your full name and address for the record and spell your last name. Each speaker will have 5 minutes of time. However, if there are more than 5 speakers who wish to speak, the board may seek consensus to limit each speaker's time to 3 minutes. When the speaker has 1 minute remaining, the speaker will receive a visual notice to complete his or her comments. Speakers may not yield their time to other people. Speakers and meeting attendees are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Therefore, verbal attacks and profanity are strictly prohibited. If there are matters dealing with student discipline, including expulsions, they will be scheduled at the conclusion of the televised portion of this meeting. Parents may address the board regarding a discipline matter at that time. To ensure student privacy, only a parent or guardian may use a student's first or last name. Identifying references to or identification of other students and/or their families are also strictly prohibited. Thank you for your attention to the board's rules.
Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers?
Yes. Marcy Ha.
Good evening, my name is Marcy Ha, H-A, and my address is 11 Pecan Course Drive, Ocala, Florida, 34472. I've been teaching for 14 years, and I know I'm good at my job. I'm a perpetual learner, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. At Maplewood, we have a large population of students with varying skill sets, home lives, and we are a Title I school. We do have gifted students, higher level students, and ESE students. I can speak for many teachers, not only at Maplewood, but at other schools in Marion County. We do, in fact, use the data from the QSMAs to drive our instruction. Most of our students never see their actual scores from these assessments. Why? First of all, these scores do not go into the grade book. Second of all, it's a temperature gauge for me to see who has mastered these skills, who has partially mastered the skills, and who is still struggling. At Maplewood, we have several things that happen on a daily basis to help our kids achieve. In addition to our core lessons, we have daily differentiated instruction, or DI, and that's across each grade level. And that is based on their ability, based on iReady scores. We do small group instruction, centers, and they have their weekly requirement of 46 minutes in each reading and math on iReady. I know you're probably saying, you should already know where your students are. I do not have a good idea of where my students are. However, the QSMA data, our assessments, give me that concrete data. I can compare that with other students in my school and within my district to see how the students are performing. For example, in reading, once we've completed a QSMA assessment and my Scantrons have been turned in and run, we complete that reading QSMA again together as a class. Students have bubbled in their test book so they can see what errors they have made, and as we go through it, they see where they've made their error, and they now have the strategies so that they can do better next time and potentially get that problem correct. After we've reviewed it and I get my scores, I dissect that data. I look at my class as a whole based on each skill. Who needs remediation? Who is right there on that cusp and needs some extra practice to push them out of that bubble, and who is completely proficient? I use iReady for this. It's a great tool. For my remediation groups, which are typically my Tier 2, Tier 3 kids, I pull the teacher-led lessons from iReady, and we worked together in small groups, and I reteach those skills. The ones who need the little push, we will practice using iReady materials. I have other hands-on materials that we use, and then I assign that skill lesson on iReady for the week as an extra lesson not based on their 46 minutes. The ones that are proficient on that, I then set them up on a project on Marion that will reinforce the skill lesson that we had that they passed on. I do look and see how my students scored compared to the other students in the district. And finally, my kids typically score between 75 and 80% of the standards on or above district level. Recently, Ms. Hoteling came and said that the QSMAs, I don't remember her exact words, but she didn't like them and it wasn't working for Madison Street. It does for us. It helps us teach those kids, get their skills so that they can be successful and master what they need to progress to the next grade and not be behind. In addition, school board members keep bringing up things as complaints that are going on in the classroom. For example, the QSMAs and other things that some have never taught in the classroom or it's been a while. I implore you to provide the names of those that you speak for since you're speaking for the masses. I can tell you right here and right now, you don't speak for me or hundreds other like me. I can speak for myself, and if you have questions, please call me, and I'll be glad to answer them myself. Thank you.
Gary Byron White.
School Board, Dr. Meyer. My name's Gary Byron White. I live at 9280 Southwest 96 Court Road, Ocala, Florida, 34481. I would just really like to thank you for your proclamation on the National Day of Prayer. The one thing that hardly ever gets mentioned in media is the one thing that we've taken out of school is God. When that Father of ours is eliminated from the room, it leaves a tremendous vacuum from the schoolroom. It leaves a tremendous vacuum. And there's one thing that will fill it very quick, and that is evil. And our National Day of Prayer gives us an opportunity to all come together and pray from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening on May 3rd, and you're all invited between 2 and 4. We would love to have you be there and join us in prayer. We are going to pack the downtown square with prayer. Thank you so much.
John Crawford.
John Crawford. I spend most of my time at 5000 Southeast Mayor Camp Road. Good evening, Madam Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, board members, Superintendent Dr. Heidi Mayer, Ms. Lopez, Ms. Flotketter, and Mr. Gibbs. Thank you, especially Ms. Boynton, for visiting for us today. I appreciate that. As everyone knows by now, Forest High School experienced what most parents fear but never expect to happen, a school shooting. Although the physical scars are few, the emotional scars are many, and it is important to understand these scars can last a lifetime. Students at Forest High School have started something called Forest Friday. The mayor will actually proclaim this Friday, Forest Friday for Ocala, and I encourage you and everyone watching to wear green on Friday, take pictures on social media, and post #Forest Friday to show these students the amount of support that exists in this community. This is not a political agenda. There is nothing here except love and support for our students. One of our faculty members, Gabe Zimmerly, actually sent the flyer that we have created. It's Dr. Mayer's put it on the website to a superintendent, his father, in Indiana, and he has spread it to the entire state of Indiana. Every superintendent in Indiana has that flyer now and is spreading it throughout their district. This outpouring of support will help show our students that we are one, we are strong, we are Forest. I come before you tonight for 3 reasons. First, I'm asking the board to suspend normal proceedings for accepting donations over $1,000 to Forest High School. We have a special account called Forest Strong, and it's designed to accept donations to pay for t-shirts, wristbands, and pins at graduation. The cost of providing this is over $10,000. We have many members of our community who want to support, and we're concerned that if we get checks that are over $1,000, the legal process will be difficult. I spoke this morning with accounting, and they said by a board consensus, you would be able to bypass that rule for Forest High School in that one specific account. I understand this is usually not done under normal circumstances, but we are not operating under normal circumstances. Second, I want to recognize a few people who do not receive enough attention. First, the custodial staff at Forest High School must be recognized. Upon returning to Forest High School at 2 p.m. on the day of the shooting, there was no sign as to what had happened. Clear, which had been written on every door and hallway, was gone. The door on Miss Haddon's room, riddled with bullet holes, had been replaced by Mr. Adams from Tech Services. The blood in the room was vanished. With incredible speed, the custodial staff had erased every trace of Forest High School's darkest hour. When the students returned to pick up their personal items, they returned to a school they were familiar with, not the chaos of that morning. Richard Stage and his crew deserve recognition. We are one, we are strong, we are Forest. Also, Dennis McFadden, Tyson Collins, and Dr. Heidi Mayer must be recognized for instituting Alice Protocol. The only reason we did not have a loss of life at our school is because we were better prepared than ever. I was one of the teachers that rolled my eyes and I scoffed that we had to lock our doors, resenting the email. Nothing like that would ever happen at Forest, and the minor inconvenience of having to let students in the hallway was too much for security. I was wrong. The swift implementation of Alice Protocol saved lives Friday, and it will save many lives across the country in the future. Third, along with Deputy Long, Mr. Ashley, Ms. Panasuk, Nurse Groh, and Ms. Haddon, Brent Carson needs to be recognized for his quick actions. He is too modest to include himself in any account of bravery, but I am not. When he heard a gunshot, he raced towards danger, completely unarmed, to ensure the safety of our school and our students. Brent Carson was as brave as any man that day. We are one, we are strong, we are Forest. Finally, I need to clearly identify for this last segment, I am no longer speaking as a teacher from Forest High School, but as a John Crawford private citizen. In my AP government class, students are required to learn the application of certain court cases, including Ingle Vital, which prohibits agents of the government from praying aloud while in official capacity as a teacher. I paid attention. Seeing as I have students here and I'm at a school board meeting, I felt necessary to my final point without violating the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment of the Constitution. John chapter 10, verses 11 through 13 says, "The hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. When he sees the wolf coming, he abandons the sheep and runs away. The man runs because he is a hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. At Forest High School, there are no hired hands. We are one, we are strong, we are Forest. From the first moment of danger, you can see the faculty putting themselves in harm's way, protecting our sheep from the wolf. Everyone bravely, willingly to give their lives for the flock. For 2 hours, I sat by the doors as my students cried. They cried because they did not know if they would live. They cried for their friends that they did not know were okay. They cried as they did not know if they would see their parents, siblings, or family again. They cried as SWAT yelled in the hallway, "We have kids in here! We have kids in here! This hallway's not clear!" Before eventually bursting into the rooms, guns drawn, looking for danger. They cried as we walked down our hallway, with our hands over our head, to evacuate the building. A walk for the first time seemed eerily unfamiliar and scary. But we are one, we are strong, and we are Forest. They also made plans no teacher or student should ever have to make. Stories are coming out from their extraordinary efforts the faculty took to protect our children. From makeshift weapons, including a flamethrower, bats, steel rods, ready to strike a would-be assailant. Stories about our students are emerging. A group of male students who swore a pact together that if the shooter enters that room, they will protect the girls. They will engage the shooter so the girls will escape down a makeshift rope of jackets that they had tied together. In my room, I had a girl who began praying to God to protect the school. But although She said if he had a plan, no matter what outcome, she would trust him. We are one, we are strong, we are Forest. And during all of this time, all the 2,100 students and 200 faculty members were scared for their lives. Forest High School's own board member, Nancy Stacy, stood outside giving interviews, audaciously turning this tragedy into a political talking point against demonstrations. How dare you, Miss Stacy? How dare you blame the students who wanted to exercise their First Amendment rights for causing this tragedy? The deranged young man attacked our school, not this administration, not the teachers, not the students. Over the past year, many things have been said that are unbecoming of an elected official. You have called my fellow teachers fascists and alluding to indoctrination of National Socialist policies.
Mr. Crawford.
That's it. That's it. You don't do
You want to silence me?
No.
Can we have a vote to let me finish or no?
No.
I think you've made your point, sir.
Your time is up too.
We are one, we are strong, we are Forest, but you are not.
Before you go, sir, come back. I graduated from Forest, and you know that. And sometimes, you know, the information that a school board member may get, we might get the same information, really. So, but truly, this school board, everyone is here for you, really. You asked us instantly that you needed something. Please, that one time, what do you need for T-shirts and all those things? Okay, sometimes you wanna say, because you have to read something. Don't let that just take that like everything. But tell us, what do you need again? Say, you said T-shirts.
To allow
Okay.
a community member or a business feels so moved to donate $1,000 or greater.
Okay.
They allow Forest High School for this specific account, this is specific account only,
Okay.
to allow us to accept donations of $1,000 or more.
Okay.
That way, we're not tied up in legal paperwork.
Okay, just one moment then.
Or do I have consensus to do that for this one?
Yes. Yeah.
My concern is to make sure that, is Ms. Ellis here, that we can do this?
She is. Mr. McFadden, can we get her, please?
He can sit down a bit.
Yeah, you can go, we've already talked about it. Thank you, sir, okay?
If you'd like to hear the rest of my speech, I'll be outside.
Okay.
Except I wasn't standing outside giving interviews, I was standing in the church.
We shouldn't have let that happen.
Thank you.
Ms. Boston Ellis, can we, for one time, disband with the having to approve the gifts of $1,000 for this one project?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a consensus?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. Pardon me, that's all the speakers. And Ms. Boston Ellis, would you notify Forest High School that they can accept those donations for this one project? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve consent agenda items C10.1 through C18.1 as submitted? Moved by Ms. Boynton, seconded by Ms. King. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please vote aye. And opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. At this time, I would like to recognize Superintendent Mayer.
I request the chair declare good cause to discuss funding of additional school resource officers.
I declare good cause.
I am asking the board discuss the cost of 34 additional school resource officers, we call them SROs, by a budget transfer from the general fund operating budgets fund balance. Again, this is discussion tonight for the board to make that decision. If the board then chooses to do so, the use of the general fund operating budgets fund balance would be used. A contract for the school resource officer program for the 34 elementary schools would be developed and brought to the school board for approval at the May 22nd, 2018 school board meeting. Ms. Boston Ellis has a handout for you to look at. Would you please?
I think we need a motion first before we have discussion. So may I have a motion on the superintendent's recommendation? Moved by Ms. King.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. James. Now, Ms. Boston Ellis, thank you.
Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, school board members, Superintendent Mayor, Mrs. Flockheader, and Attorney Gibbs, and Ms. Martinez Lopez as well. You have 2 worksheets in front of you. If I may begin by saying on Friday, a good faith effort was made to come up with a budget for not only the remaining days in this fiscal year, but also for next year. This was a very rough draft, and I began working with Mr. Holland. I believe he's the bureau chief for the sheriff, and we began talking through what a contract should look like. I was not negotiating on behalf of the school board, just trying to understand the calculations that he had created. On the first sheet, in the middle of it, there is an amount that he says is needed for the first quarter. And basically, that $712,000 was their best guess at that time of what it would cost to hire the 34 SROs. And the reason we're coming before you now is because, as you know, the SROs showed up on Monday morning at all of our schools. So I was basically trying to figure out what the impact would be on Marion County Public Schools. So working with Mrs. McCall, at the bottom of this sheet is just a handwritten note of what we thought the impact would be on Marion County Public Schools. So a little less than $500,000. If you'll turn over on the second worksheet, as I stated, Mr. Holland and I have been talking for the last few days. It feels like it's been a week, but just in the last couple of days, he's been very cordial in helping me understand the calculation and how they actually come up with a budget to pay for SROs. So the second worksheet is where we are as of today. So the original cost of $499,000 has been reduced to $224,104. And that would cover the cost, it's our best guess, would cover the cost from the standpoint of the MSCO for the starting Monday past all the way through to the end of the current school year. So I am here to answer any questions that you may have about their calculations. As I stated, we are still talking through these, not only for the remaining year, but also for next year and what this contract looks like and the impact that it will have on the school board's general fund.
So tonight's discussion is simply about the remaining year. The $224,104. And then the first page, Mrs. Boston Ellis will be working with Mr. Holland for better figures for next year. But so the request tonight is just to finish out this year, adding those 34 school resource officers at each elementary school. Mr. James.
Before we get into this, I'd like for us to schedule a debriefing of what occurred, because this is important. Because we are here because of some things that we need to discuss, and I think we need to discuss them in a debriefing in terms of what has occurred. I was at Westport. I was behind the curtain, let's say. And first of all, let me say this. I want to commend Mrs. Cruz and those kids over at Westport, because I was there when I saw when this catastrophe happened, and I saw what they went through because of communication. And this bothered me tremendously that we are not scheduling a debriefing so we can go through what we did as a school district and what we could improve on. When I say this to you, I will say that at that school, they were magnificent. The staff was magnificent. We were moving in the right direction. We were doing everything. And then we got a call from a yellow to a code red, and then we had police jumping over the fence and all that stuff. And they got that people got that information before that staff did. And this is why we had those problems over there. And as we get ready to spend money on this, I know by state statute that we will have to do this next year, but I do not want to be spending money knowing that a lot of this was brought on by us as a district in our communication. And I will tell you again, we need to go over everything that occurred, because I had an opportunity to look at how proficient our staff was until they got bad information. And this is my concern. And I understand that we have to vote on this. And I don't want to vote on things because of a panic. I want to vote on things because it's the right thing to do. And I see a combination of things here, because I believe that the sheriff department over there did an excellent job at Forest High School. When I say sheriff, from all the sheriff, and when they got over to Westport, information triggered all that scene and hysteria that went on out there. And I just know when we go to spending money, I have my concern, and I know we as a district, and Mr. McFadden, we need to schedule that as soon as possible. When do we have to vote on this thing?
22nd, I believe.
The vote will come for the $224,104 on the May 22nd board meeting. We'll have a contract then.
Okay, we need, can we get a debriefing before that so all the board members will know the full story about what's going on here? Okay.
Mr. McFadden, can you?
Okay, and board, I think it would be wise if we did that.
Okay.
And that's what my concern is.
I agree. If we're voting to spend money, we just really need to know exactly everything that happened and why we need to do certain things right now. I agree with Mr. James.
Ms. Borton?
Okay, well, thank you for giving the information. I didn't have the information, but instantly a letter to our federal and our state senators and representatives. And so if you can get this information to me so that I can give it to them. We did, Senator Rubio has sent an email back already. So if you can give me this information to say, we know where we're at, how much we have right now, and what we really need, so for now and for years. So
You're talking about additional funding?
Yes, for funding. And I asked him, I sent him a letter, and the lawyer does, he may understood that I will send it to them, that what happened, we may need some additional refunds. But we have to tell, we really, send them what we need, a budget. Send them a budget so we will know what we need, okay? If you can, thank you.
Ms. King, do you have anything?
By us waiting until the 22nd, the SROs will still continue to be in the school.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I actually, at the end of this evening, one of my concerns is that we have not been debriefed, and there are concerns from the community, and one of the most common concerns that I'm hearing is what happened at Westport, that it became a dangerous situation, that we had parents climbing fences, and it pretty much turned into a nightmare especially if we look at a law enforcement view. It was almost like a riot, and I think that came from the communication or somewhere. So I think that we need, I know we need to sit down with the Sheriff Billy Woods, our OPD Chief Graham, Mr. McFadden, and I would like for us to see a detailed report, from beginning to end, because I grew up in a time in a small town. The boys had guns in their truck and a gun rack, and times are different. And I think we need to be hearing from the experts of what's happened and what we need to do to protect all of our children, because bottom line, someone did enter that school with a gun, and we could have had a much more different incident and tragedy than what actually happened. So as a board member, I want to make sure that we know everything so that we can prevent anything. And again, there was a time I never thought I would even think of metal detectors per se, but we need to examine and look at everything. And that's where I stand as a board member.
Mr. James?
Let me come back to that now. I think we need, as a board, to have a debriefing, and then we need to have a debriefing with the Sheriff Department, because there's a lot of stuff we need to clean up as a school district.
We do.
When I say there's a lot of stuff that we need to clean up, the sheriff got his agenda, and we will match that. We got our agenda, but I saw things there that an experienced administrator would not have allowed to happen, and we need to discuss that as a school district. And then we need to move and bring the sheriffs and connect them, because there was a lot of stuff that we were doing as a school district. And when I say this to you, I was on the backside. I wasn't up front at Forest. And I know this young man was wondering why I was reacting the way I am, but I know there was more to the story than he's aware of. And as a board, we need to clean up a lot of stuff. And there's some things I feel that we can do as a board to prevent the things on our side. And then when we match it with the sheriffs, then we can get a complete picture of what is occurring. That's where I am with this.
And I wanted to ask a question also. I received a phone call from parents a couple of parents over at Westport. I don't know if this really happened or if that's what they envisioned happened, but the Westport gates were closed and the deputies were having to climb the fence and run like a long way with their guns and everything just to get into the schools. I don't know. Did that happen, Mr. McFadden? Were the gates closed and the officers had to climb?
I was there. And what I'm saying to you more than anything else, that happened because of that communication pitch.
Okay.
Okay, and when I say that to you, Ms. Cruz and her staff, if there's gonna be some roses given out tonight, they need to get some. And so, and this is why I think as a group, guys, we need to sit down and go over this thing. Because I actually wrote down a lot of things that I observed by being there. Okay. And this is why I don't want to just throw it there when we got these people here that we need to clean this stuff up. Everything from the bus portables and everything else. We need to.
Yeah, I agree. I was at a high school and the code red had already taken place, and I witnessed things as a board member that I knew should not have been taking place, and I don't think this is something we want to sit on. I think it needs to be taken care of immediately because, and we'll discuss that, I think, at a different time. Now's not the time to discuss what I actually seen, so.
And that's under investigation right now.
Also,
We had a complaint filed.
Yeah, you know that I was I went by Forest and the police and Dr. Ham, the police, the deputies, they were really good. But I also went to Fairleigh, every elementary in my district and Vanguard. And I want to see, I know there were some people, some parents and students that were still there, but the police were so they did, they were like very calm. They didn't push around or say run. They just like this. And people would just step back instantly. The parents instantly just step back. And I said, okay. I said to myself, I'm going over to Evergreen because, I'm going my district to make sure. But I want you to know instantly when I was there, and I sent an email to our lawyer, but instantly you were here, Paula, Andrew, this is where we are. So everything we were doing, step by step, she was sending me that information, and I thought, and I just want to say, somewhere there may have been some information we didn't get there, because I got that Facebook video about, excuse me, Westport, and I was really like, whoa, and I began to, like when I went over to Forest, today I went over and I walked around and I said, so I can give that information to Senator Baxley so he would understand, because what do we think, what change, what should we do differently? And also Dr. Ham had already briefed us what could happen. And I had with Dr. Ham, how many months? About 3 months ago, and he had given us. So, and as I looked some of that information, I saw how the our students, I thought they instantly did the right they need to do. They really did. But after I left Vanguard Forest, and I saw the buses, and I wanted to say the buses did really good too. And I just stood and I told Dr. Ham, I said, he said, well, I said, I'm just going to watch. And I watched every bus that went by, and I think that, yes, the information was around, but I will tell you from Paula, she is under the superintendent, that information was going back and forth instantly, where we are, what school, where the student's going to be at. That was instantly. So I just want to say they did a wonderful thing. But get that budget so we can send it back, because sometimes, if they know exactly what, if they get that brief and we send that brief it to them also, and then you can look at our budget, we made some good, okay?
I got one more question too. I was told by a principal that after Sandy Hook, that our teachers were instructed to shut the door from the inside before Alice Protocol was ever even heard of. And I'd be curious if someone will research that to find out at what point did we stop doing that. Because she said that after Sandy Hook that they were told to lock the doors. In fact, my daughter-in-law was a teacher in the Kissimmee area, and I was talking to her about Alice Protocol. She goes, what is that? And I said, well, the teachers lock the doors from the inside and nobody can get in. She said, we've been doing that. She said, I started teaching there 8 years ago, and we were always locking our doors from the inside. And I know that at some point, this principal told me after Sandy Hook, we were doing it here. And I would be curious, as the levels of administration, if they've changed in different things, when did we stop doing it?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you that the Alice Protocol is much more than just
Right, but
locking
that was
doors.
a key thing, though, to keep the doors locked so nobody can at least get in. But
I don't know, maybe we can check on
from the
that.
inside, but I didn't know when we stopped doing that.
But thank you. I can tell you, so you just need to know where this information came from. I was called by Sheriff Wood to a meeting at his office 2 o'clock on Friday. And he told me that he was going to place SROs in every single school in Marion County on Monday. And he had his chief of staff prepare a budget to hand me to take to our CFO. Teresa and I met on Friday afternoon. And then she and Mr. Holland began the process of talking about the true figure for the remaining part of the year. So you need to know that I am the one that was called, and I am the one that had the information into our CFO, okay? So that's where that came from. I don't think any of us could sit here and say that putting SROs in every single school is the wrong thing to do. It is absolutely the right thing to do. So we will debrief, Mr. McFadden, if you will set that up so that we can know everything that went on. And then we will discuss and hopefully vote on this $224,000 to help keep our kids safe for the rest of the year. Okay.
And we will continue the discussion with them, and this may look different when it gets back to you, hopefully.
Yes.
That is our goal, for it to be lower.
Ms. McCall, I hope you understand now, whether we implement this program on Monday, last Monday, or we implement it next school year, it was going to take place. So I don't think any of the board members will have a problem in us moving it up, moving up the implementation, in other words, the amount of money that
They're
we're...
already there. The sheriff said they're
Right.
there and they're staying.
And I don't think any board member have a problem with that, and that's where I am with it. So you don't need to be sitting there thinking we got some agenda here, because I know it need to be done, and it was going to be done anyway, sooner or later. Because the statute, and my concern with the debriefing more than anything else is we need to look at all these things that we did and we are doing. Because that kid, if you look at you read those articles, that kid told you why he did it. And we're doing some of the things there that will make another kid out there sitting around looking out there and say, oh, we really got it. See, we need to look at what we're doing. And I'm saying we need to look at it, and the reason I'm bringing this up now, because we are continually providing inspiration for a little kid out there that's watching this thing. And we need to address these things, period.
You know, I also think that we should brief for Marion County and Tallahassee and Washington D.C. We should give them a brief to them also, so they'll know why too more. You know, sometimes you look at your senators and they, you know, if they need some more, I think we should give them some more information. Just a little brief for them to, so what happened, you know, I think that's something we should be doing too, for them too. Yeah.
I'm sure the sheriff
But yeah,
and the chief of police have briefed many.
But this is we're on the school board about for what we're saying, you know. We're the school board.
And Madam Chair, it's rhetorical when I say you understand that from the press conference we had Friday and the discussions we had with the sheriff Friday, that in situations like Friday, the sheriff would take precedent and he would lead the safety discussions, the safety protocol for that day, and SROs
Yes.
would be in charge that day, and his guidance on what to say and when to debrief, we would follow his lead.
That is correct. He is the safety, he takes over on days like that. Okay, are we ready? The recommendation from the superintendent is to approve funding for the cost of the 34 additional resource officers by budget transfer from the general fund. What will come to us on the 22nd will be the contract for that. But the recommendation is to approve this funding, and the motion is to approve this $224,000 this evening.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. I think we're ready for a vote on this. So all of those in favor, please vote aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? No. Motion passed 5-0. Mr. McFadden, you will get a date and get the debriefing with Sheriff Wood and Chief Graham.
Okay, now, when I say that now, I still think are we having one where we can meet as separately as a board, and then,
Is that what you want, Mr. James?
yeah, I think we need to talk about in-house a little bit.
Yeah.
And then,
So that's the debriefing you want, is in-house.
I want two. I want the in-house is where we as a school board can sit and talk about what we need. And so we'll utilize our own input. And then we can have Sheriff Graham, Chief Graham, and Sheriff Wood bring his people in. Then we can make these things mesh. Because there's a lot of things, when I say in terms of the school district, there's a lot of things that we did had nothing to do with the sheriff. That we were doing that had nothing to do with the sheriff. And some of the things that I would like to discuss with you, we need to speak to the board about it. Okay, so it's two.
All right, so the first one will be just with the board, and you, Mr. McFadden, and I guess Dr. Ham, Superintendent? Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Anything else on this before we move forward? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the following cash or tangible donations that have a total value of $4,500? $1,500 to Fessenden Elementary School from the Fessenden School Alumni Association. $2,000 to North Marion High School from the Marion County Children's Alliance, Inc. Somebody's phone. $1,000 to Stanton Wearsdale Elementary School from the Recreation Plantation. May I have a motion? Moved by Ms. King, seconded by Ms. Boynton. All those in favor of accepting these donations, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Motion passed 5-0. Mr. James, would you please thank our...
It's always a pleasure to thank people that contribute to our school board. And when I say school board, the school board is in reference to the 43,000 students that we have. And thanks so much, because it means a lot. And I'm sure every student out there will benefit so much from this. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. The next administrative briefing and work session is scheduled for Wednesday, April 25th, 2018. That is tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, at 1 p.m. The purpose of the work session is to discuss the district staffing plan. An administrative briefing and work session is also scheduled for Thursday, May the 3rd, 2018, to discuss school start-stop times, the Humane Society presentation, long-range planning, bus concerns, and direct report assistance to the board. External operator interviews, presentations will take place on April 26th. The meeting will begin at 8 o'clock and last all day. The first presentation will actually begin at 8:30. Concerns? Ms. King, we'll start with you.
Okay. I know we touched on it a little bit. I do want to personally thank the faculty and the staff and the law enforcement officers, EMTs, the fire rescue, and First Baptist Church for Friday. They all did an outstanding job for an unthinkable act that happened that day. And I truly believe it was the grace of God that nothing worse happened that day. I truly believe that God had his hand on our county and Forest High that day. I think I already discussed some of those. I do have another concern is yesterday we received a letter from the Chancellor of Education. And in this letter, he stated that Marion is the only district who has not completed the selection process, and we are requesting that we consider the timeline to review to meet the June 15th deadline. How are we doing on that?
Mr. Gibbs, can you please tell them what we have gone through to this date?
Back in March, I emailed the DOE our schedule, so they should be aware of it. I forwarded that email on to the chancellor today when that email was forwarded on to me. So they've been aware of it. I don't know why it didn't go up to the chancellor, but I think we're in good shape I think the plan was to get it to the first board meeting in May with the contract for selection.
Okay, I was just assuming, but whenever you receive a letter from the chancellor,
Correct.
because he did state on here that they did tell us on October 16th, and we don't have to rehash that, but he stated on here that our county was aware on October 16th, even though as board members, we were not. And then he talks about, January 31st. So if
Ms. King, when the vote was taken in March to use the external operator, then that began us putting the process, but because we have to notice everything, we're on different timelines and we can't all just meet. So we have done everything as close as we possibly can, and Mr. Gibbs has been in touch with the DOA on this process all the way along. So because we voted late, that is what has put the process farther behind.
But I want to make sure we reiterate that we voted late because this board was not aware that this was taking place, because he clearly states it was October 16th.
They are very aware. Mr. Gibbs has been in touch.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I want to say that this past Saturday, that Saturday school for Evergreen Elementary ended. I want to personally thank Norvella Haynes and Mr. Livingston and the volunteers from the community that just worked really hard with those students. And it was really a great day to see when these students would stand up and they would say what they learned. And it was just a good experience for them. And maybe it wasn't as many as they would hoped that would come, but I think this is the beginning of many more Saturday schools in the future. And that community has really come together, and I look forward to see where they go. And then finally, I'm just going to end, and I'm just going to say and ask that everyone just please continue to pray for the safety and the peace in our schools, because I like I said earlier, I truly believe that it was the grace of God on last week, and I will continue praying. Thank you.
And I'd also like to thank everyone and thank our Sheriff's Department and our chiefs, our Denellen Chief, our City of Ocala Chief and Bellevue Chief, also for all that they did. They were just the presence of the police department. They were just everywhere. And by the way, I didn't do any interview at Forest until nighttime. It was dark when I did, and I wasn't at Forest High School, so I don't really know what they're talking about. But anyway, I was at the church. I was inside the church with Miss King, and I wasn't standing outside taking interviews, so I don't have a clue what they're talking about. But anyway, that's fine. But an incident happened here Thursday that I think it took us all back. And I know Mr. James mentioned it at the end of his board concerns, that we came here for a nice workshop, a busy workshop, and it got started with just a whirlwind. The superintendent, accusing the board of all kinds of things, and she had a written speech that got put in the newspaper. And, we might as well just clean everything up. The schools are fine. We're going to make sure they're fine. But our employees, I want to make sure they're fine. Mrs. Mayor, my constituents have asked me why I've been laying back and not defending myself or this board, as your attacks have gone on for months. And for the most part, we just sat quiet. I told them I preferred to give you a nice long length of rope, and my gift to you is now long enough as of last Thursday. We all came to the workshop Thursday ready for a productive meeting, and you opened it with a long, accusatory, hateful rant speech filled with threats of liability to these board members for doing our jobs with your convoluted interpretations of state statutes. Tonight, I will defend my school board colleagues and the terrified employees that I have now apologized to for my part in helping you win this seat. I have never asked you to do a single thing in your entire time here for a year and a half that was not one of your campaign promises. There's none, I don't know where this is coming from, that I wanted to tell you what to do. I've never asked you for a single thing. I didn't even know who your staff was that you were hiring until like January. I think I found out about Dr. I finally said, well, do you have deputies? I didn't insert anything about recommending anybody or talking about anybody you were hiring. The time has come to share your own written words with everyone from your campaign days to show exactly how manipulatively you operate, which will explain your offensive attacks on innocent board members and employees just doing their jobs, as you strike at everyone calling people bullies who disagree with you like a viper, as you did Thursday in your effort to drive wedges between this school board and our wonderful employees, all because you know they are whistleblowing to us. We all know the real bully in life is the one who accuses everyone else of it first. So here goes. When your campaign began, you assured me in writing that you could easily handle your opponent, Mr. Tomlin. You stated, quote, this is your direct quote in writing, "Please don't worry that I am going to freeze up. I will go Dr. Mayor," that was in quotes, "on him. No worries. And I can make people feel 2 inches tall when I do that. I can also build people up to 10 feet tall. It is all about the context. Miss Mayor, I believe your Dr. Heidi gig is associated with just a natural lack of empathy for others and your uncanny, well-rehearsed ability to portray yourself as a fake victim when in reality, you are always, without exception, the perpetrator throughout the 3 years I've known you. I foolishly lauded you during your campaign. I was so impressed by your ability to be such a phenomenal fake woman victim during the campaign as we joked about your victim talents you proudly boasted to me about that backed up your written words that I just read. Since I never had that talent for people to feel sorry for me, I was amazed to see how masterfully you presented yourself as a victim in your speeches, and I foolishly praised you for it. I was wrong. Your behavior worked for you because Tomlin's campaign saw that victim card being pulled out of your deck, and they decided not to publicize your recent bankruptcy, which would have been your political demise. I now understand the following saying: give someone power and their true character will be revealed. I never dreamed or could have believed, by the way you used me as your useful idiot to get elected, that once elected you would implement your Dr. Heidi's strategy against our poor employees, making them feel they work for the KGB, as that's what they call it here. As they tell us, you allegedly threatened them that they had better tell you about all conversations they have with us board members. My goodness, what do we have to hide here? Ms. Mayor, you obviously have so much to hide. We are finding out, peeling this onion, where you are breaking state statute and board policy, that you must know your administrator informants are putting board members onto these rabbit trails that have led me personally to so many things I have been exposing. So now, you allegedly informed them they had better not give us info they don't run past you first. Yep, KGB style. Your rant ended Thursday with accusing board members of affecting your employees' relationships with the district. First of all, they aren't your employees. They are school board employees. Your bad relationships with our district employee is not the school board's fault, but yours for going Dr. Heidi on them and allegedly throwing F-bombs at them. And at least one constituent I know of, you did that to him on the phone. This fake concern for your employees you are pretending to project through your epistle of written fake words is falling on your employees' deaf ears. Why? Because your actions towards our school board employees have already spoken. As you stated, when you go Dr. Heidi on people, you can pick whether to make them feel 2 inches tall or 10 feet tall. But those you are trying to build up in your speech that was copied and pasted in Joe's Star Banner article all know you, and know you are now just temporarily trying to make them like you so they won't support the appointed superintendent on the November ballot, as all large top-performing districts in Florida have. Therefore, you are the last person they would trust to defend them, so your skillfully worded manipulative context, as you call it, context, describing the new and improved Dr. Heidi won't work. Your fake words did not make them feel 10 feet tall. They know this is just your gig going Dr. Heidi for sympathy, off their backs, previously whipped and scarred by you. I have seen teachers crying. I have seen administrators crying.
I do believe you have tried inoculating your employees with a disease that causes heinous internal fears within them, so you can control them through their families' livelihoods, and I hope they are not working so hard to endear you that they embellish their conversations with us board members to you by saying what they think you want to hear. However, that is what abused people do. That is either the case with your stories of the board intimidating them, or you are just flat dishonest, so as to totally misrepresent what they say to fulfill your agenda. You made threats to the board Thursday you cannot back up. There is also a rule 6A-10.081 in the administrative code that speaks to honesty. And if I find out an employee is embellishing or flat being dishonest about this board's conversations with them to endear you by giving you fodder, you better bet I will ask this board to exercise their just cause to do an end around you and not reinstate them. If you have recruited a troublemaker that is helping you shut down dialogue with school board members because other staff employees are whistleblowing to us, and they are, about the laws you are breaking, then hopefully they are hearing this meeting right now. They better stop now. Administrative code requires honesty, and this board can go around you. You are, Ms. Mayor, you're so low that you even told me in writing that the Evergreen SAC chair, to discredit the Evergreen SAC chair back during the time we were going to do the Saturday schools, that you heard her saying she didn't care if a molester, she didn't care if the person teaching her child was a molester, as long as the child learned to read. She has already sent your email I provided her to her attorney. So, Ms. Mayor, you may be the one that needs to talk to an attorney. Regarding state statutes you spoke of in your speech Thursday printed in the newspaper, you obviously failed to read the duties of the school board, or you would have seen some almost identical verbiage for school boards in statute, almost matching the superintendent's verbiage. For example, 1001.42, powers and duties of the school board. Visitation of schools. Visit the schools, observe the management and instruction, and give suggestions for improvement. The statute under duties for superintendent says the exact thing in the first 4 lines. The only difference is you give advice for improvement and then you advise them to do it per statute. We are supposed to be a team, and state statute is clearly written to prevent power trips of unbalanced control. Another state statute you totally ignored was the one that gives you zero power to set procedures for walkouts or demonstrations. Had this school board not trusted you were playing in your statute sandbox when you blocked school time out for that ridiculous Second Amendment demonstration, I doubt it would have even been on the docket. Florida Statute 1001.43 is clear that you overstepped your authority again, of course, because it states the school board sets demonstration procedures. I do believe this school board's procedures might have read something like this, quote, if students try walking out, then call your mom when you pass through the door to inform her you will be keeping her company for 10 long days. How can you, with a straight face, read that speech you wrote defending employees when this board has sat here for almost 2 years watching you go Dr. Heidi on our employees, destroying their careers, when before knowing you, they had never once in 20 years had a mark against their good names? Today, twice as many teachers have been formally disciplined and suspended than ever before in history here. A teacher's lawyer said to this board just recently during an employee hearing, said to all the board members, if this administration continues their obsession of blaming and punishing teachers, that we would have no teachers soon. Half of them will be gone tomorrow if they could get jobs elsewhere. You must know how employees feel, and you have to know that as you sit there telling the board you must protect staff from us that is full of baloney, because it is that staff who is informing us about the illegal and unethical things you are doing or trying to make them do. You portray yourself in the context of your speech as our employees' protector when they know you are not. It is the school board's great teachers and administration who point this school board down paths that we have used to expose spent construction dollars without the board approving the construction plans at the renovated Young Mothers building, that you moved admin to District East before we knew it was even happening, overstepping your authority, as it is the school board that votes on building use. And you had to know we would never approve that. Taxpayers ended up paying 2 offices for you in Disneyland Pink for you to live in an imaginary world as the queen or princess. That you broke statute not bringing stakeholders into the closing of Evergreen. You had a middle school magnet plan for Evergreen's building in the newspaper without first having open school board discussions. So you didn't know, due to your inexperience, that by doing that, it would have totally destroyed 10 years of promises to Lakeware Middle of a replacement school that is held together with temporary fixes. That you changed principal certification requirements at the DOE that I recently exposed that totally went against board policy without informing us, so you could hire people, and you got inexperienced principals running some of our schools. You planned a hurricane volunteer party that took much time to plan and did not inform the board of the celebration that was initially board member Kelly's idea. So we couldn't attend because we found out the day of the event. You stuffed our great employees all in a room together at the fishbowl, as you call it, where they tell me they pray for one another, that they just get on their way to work, that they just get through another day of that chaos. And we told them. The board never approved that. You implemented a no homework policy, even though no Florida top performing district does this, that you read about in a book, which should have been a board decision in the first place, but the board found out in the newspaper, as we found out about so many things. No sitting superintendent has ever done that to this board. Now, to our abused parents. Your hunger to discipline and punish has also stepped into the extreme bizarre judgment behavior patterns towards parents. One parent may speak tonight. I don't know if she got here in time to fill out her form after the cameras quit rolling. If she did, she will be speaking about a great school that was a great school for 30 years and has now started collapsing within a year of your mismanagement thanks to your constant administrative changes. A parent will explain her nightmare under this administration after cameras quit rolling. I will always try to find a silver lining in everything. Your bully accusations puts this school board in very good company because both Margaret Thatcher and President Reagan were both called bullies by people that have zero understanding of what real leadership is. Thank you.
You know, I'm going to say this, and I know somebody going to say something crazy. Bobby James, you're doing stuff. Only fools fight in a burning house. I just want y'all to know that. One of the things that I'm really concerned about, and I've said this on several occasions, I am afraid the wheels are going to run off this thing. And I'm going to tell you the biggest culprit to this thing is our communication. Yep. Our communication is going to, let me just say this, our communication have cost us close to $2 million. And if it haven't, it will. It will cost us that. And Ms. Ellis, I know you're in a tough situation because you got to balance this. You got to balance this stuff. When I look at the fact that we put on resource officers and we need to discuss that, all those things we talked about in terms of communicating. When we think in terms of communication, there's an after effect. You know, they're like we were not informed about Evergreen over there. Now we're going to pay X amount of dollars for a charter school. And then we're going to pay for those teachers and things that go along with that. See, that's part of our communication that we would have known. Then when I look at what we're doing with how the principals hired and things like that, if we look at those young principals out there, which they may be good principals, but by the same token, I'm looking at all the turnovers and things that we're having at those schools. See, those things go to impacting our budget. And then the next thing that we have, and I think we have a staffing plan coming up Wednesday? Tomorrow. I haven't seen the budget for that staffing plan, but I do know that the staffing plan have to be communicated to us on why we need all these people on assignments and all that, because it's going to destroy this budget. And when I say destroy the budget, guys, I'm looking at the big picture here. This thing running in a circle here, because if you do something here, it's going to affect something here. And when I look at our budget, all we need is another natural disaster, because the money we get, we have decided to go into our general fund. And anytime we start pulling from our general fund, whether it's for a hurricane or for this tragedy that we had Friday, that means that we get on a slippery slope. And once you start going into your general fund, you're going into a slippery slope, and a lot of this is being created by us not communicating and talking about what we're doing as a district. And we need to, and it's a two-way street, and I'm gonna say it again, we need to make this thing happen. We need to sit down and look at what we're doing with these numbers, because no matter what we say or do, these numbers are not gonna lie to us. And this is what my concern is as a board. And board, we need to look at not necessarily the front door, but what's coming out the back door. When we look at all those fringe benefits and all of those things, and we need to have the numbers on that staffing plan when we come in here tomorrow. That's where I am. Thank you. Oh, I got one other thing. Hey, I had a tremendous opportunity, and I just want to thank the Westport staff. That Westport staff, and I know we doing a lot of things, but hey, if y'all can send a rose to them, because they were super. Even when the panic occurred, they wanted. Confronting students, jumping fences and stuff, they would stop. They would top of the line. Thank you.
I'm just gonna say just a few of these things, that's it. We had, remember when I asked for the IEP audit? They did. Really, they came on April the 19th, and they gave the plan and all the information. I just want you to know that sometimes when Dr. Mayer, you know, you knew it was going to be a lot of hours that they had to do, and she really put. They looked this for hours for me to get this information. Although everything was right, was not good, but they gave us that information for our IEP, and that is something that I looked at it and I said, you know what, maybe we need to. After we looked at it too on 19, maybe have a policy so that they can do it once a year. That they will maybe have a policy so that they'll come back and audit themselves, so they'll know where they are, and so that when federal comes in, we'll be doing everything the right things, you know. So, like it has some red times, but I thought they really had they had done a really good time information, so I was really happy for that. I have another, you know, every time my parents call me, I really believe in them, you know, if they have a question. So, and I think I asked you about them trespassing, you know, that we have parents that ask a teacher, and then the principal talks about that their child is asking about, is saying that another student is a bully, and instantly that principal will say to a parent, I don't, like, it's like that, you know, I think that a principal should really instantly say, she instantly went to the teacher, and she's saying that my child, somebody's bullying. You have to really think instantly and say, well, after that, teacher doesn't give her the information, who are they going? To the principal. And that principal, you should be instantly, when that parent says, what's happened to my child? You know, what do you think about that? That parent is thinking about, they're about talking about safety for their own parent. But right now, trespassing so many parents. Some need that, but there's a way that we need to come together as the board and come up with some ideas on how we can make a parent will have trespass. That maybe that our security men, maybe they could come back and and talk how a different way, because like I said, there are some times when we need to transmit another parent or either somebody that's inside of our around our schools. But when we have a parent, and they have a bully, if you can give us some information, or maybe we can come up with agreement or something that we can do. If you could do that, I think that's really something, because I will tell you that one of the parents, when I was over at NX Jones, and I never, do you realize that so many of those parents were ready to leave just for one? And I said, we got it together. Okay, so thank you. We can do that, and I want to say to the police, to our deputies, Dr. Kim, Dr. Ham, our own security, all employees, the buses. I just, our students, they were, our whole community. I just want to thank you myself, because it could have been different, really. And God knows I prayed every day about our children, our students, really out of their county. But I just want to thank you. Thank you.
I have 3 Bible verses that I look at before every single school board meeting. I keep it in my drawer. I also say a prayer before I start the meeting. These 3 Bible verses all come from Proverbs, Proverbs 11. Proverbs 11 verse 2 says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." Proverbs 11 verse 14 says, "For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors." And Proverbs 11 verse 17 says, "Those who are kind benefit themselves, but the cruel bring ruin on themselves." I would love nothing more than for this board and this administrative team to think about these Bible verses every time we meet. That we could begin to work together for our students, for what's best for our students. So maybe each of you, before we start a meeting, could find your own Bible verses that you think might fit into how you want to be as a board member. Thank you.
That's good advice, thank you.
No.
What
did I do?
No, good Bible verse.
Dr. Mayor?
I thought that was nice, Ms. Thank you. Officer DSO, thank you for being with us tonight. You're one of our SROs, and I want to salute you. Thank you. Thank you. So you were inside with us, and outside we had OPD Officer Malone and Officer Leibfried, and we salute them as well. Lots happening this week, lots of happy things that I'll keep that for next week, because so much focus we need to put on to Forest Friday this week. And as Mr. Crawford mentioned, that this Friday we're asking the community, we're asking everybody to wear green, just as a show of support for our forest family. This week, there were quite a few books that I had thought about reading, but my heart, Friday night, I was driving home Friday night, and this book popped into my head. And it's Thank You, Mr. Falker by Patricia Polacco. And in this book, it tells the story of a little girl who is just struggling in school. And she is growing up in Michigan, She has a brother. She's with her mom, and she is so close to her grandparents, who just love her and encourage her in her school. But she struggles, and she struggles to read. Well, as it goes through, the beautiful illustrations are by Patricia Polacco too, but her grandparents pass away. And so her mom takes her and her brother, her mom's a teacher, and her mom takes her and her brother, and they travel from Michigan, and they go across the country, and so they're now in another state. And she's still having difficulty in her new school until she begins 5th grade. And on the first day of 5th grade, when she walks in, here is this brand new teacher, and you can see him in his spiffy suit. And he is a brand new teacher, brand new to the school, brand new to the profession. But he walks in, he has no preconceived notions. As she says, he doesn't even care about the teacher's pets. But right from the start, it didn't seem to matter to Mr. Falker which kids were the cutest or the smartest or the best at everything. He loved them all. And again, he is such a sporty dresser. That always catches my eye. She's still struggling to read, and she's in 5th grade. And on this page, she says, one day she's reading Charlotte's Web in class, and the page was going all fuzzy, and the kids began to laugh out loud at her. Mr. Falker, in his plaid jacket and his butterfly tie, said, "Stop. Are all of you so perfect that you can look at another person and find fault with her?" That was the last day anyone laughed out loud or made fun of her, she says. As her year continues, she's still struggling a bit to read, and he finally figures out she has a form of dyslexia. And so when he finally figures that out, he stands up and washed the board off where they were working, and he said, "We're going to change. You are going to read. I promise you that." And he and a reading specialist helped this little girl, and she does learn to read. And on the last page, we discover that this is actually an autobiography, because the little girl is Patricia Polacco. And she said the rest of that year became an odyssey of discovery and adventure for the little girl. She learned to love school. I know, because that little girl was me, Patricia Polacco. I saw Mr. Falker again some 30 years later at a wedding. I walked up to him and introduced myself. At first, he had difficulty placing me. Then I told him who I was and how he had changed my life so many years ago. He hugged me and asked me what I did for a living. "Why, Mr. Falker," I answered, "I make books for children." "Thank you, Mr. Falker, thank you." And as I drove home Friday and this book went through my head, I thought how wonderful it will be for all of us to be at weddings coming up in the next few years, and to have those students from Forest High look and say, "Thank you, Mr. Carson. Thank you, Miss Haddon. Thank you, Mr. Crawford, because you were there on that day with me." Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Mr. Gibbs. Before addressing expulsion matters, I wish to acknowledge that board members have received the alternative placement list for students through April 6, 2018. Ms. Flotketter, are there any parents who have submitted a timely request to speak on their child's disciplinary matter? May I have a motion to approve the expulsion of student JD 18-72 with educational services through the remainder 2017-2018 school year and the first semester of the 2018-2019 school year?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. James, seconded by Ms. King. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye, and those opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. May I have a motion to approve the expulsion of student JD 18-73, JD 18-74E, JD 18-75E, JD 18-76, with educational services through the remainder of 2017-2018 school year and the entire 2018-2019 school year. Moved by Ms. King,
Second.
seconded by Mr. James. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye. Any opposed, like sign. Motion passed 5-0. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Ms. Boynton, seconded by Ms. King. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye, and those opposed, hopefully not, vote nay. The vote passes 5-0. The meeting is adjourned at 8:06.